The dot point I've been asked to explain is describe homeostasis as the process by which organisms maintain a relatively stable internal environment. Now, from this dot point, you need to know two terms. You need to know what homeostasis is, and you need to know what internal environment is. One is pretty basic, which is internal environment. This includes, for example, I don't know, your blood temperature, your blood pH, the concentration of a certain substance inside your blood, etc. And the other term is homeostasis. Now, what this is, defined by the textbook, is the process by which organisms maintain a relatively stable environment. Now, what this means is keeping your blood temperature the same, your pH the same, your sugar concentration, the pH of other chemicals such as trypsin and pepsin, and you're probably wondering why we need to keep these constant. Now, this will be explained up here. Enzymes have something called an optimum condition over here. And what an optimum condition is an environment that the enzyme prefers. And this enzyme prefers, for example, I don't know, in blood, it'll prefer 37 degrees, or inside your intestines, pepsin would prefer a pH of 1.2 or 1.3. And what this allows the enzyme to do is react with the substrate. As you can see, this has like a boxed figure, and this has a circular figure, hence forming with the substrate, and as a result, producing the product. And the enzyme will then go back to its original shape, as you can see over here. And the other outcome, if you don't have the optimum condition, is the enzyme denatures. And what this causes it to do is that it'll try to form with the substrate, but as you can see, there are gaps, unlike the one over here. So what happens is that the substrate just ends up escaping because nothing is really happening, because the enzyme isn't really doing its job. And what will happen over time is that the enzyme will eventually die. And think about it, if your enzymes die, then products won't be produced, for example, ATP. Hence, you'll have no energy, and as an outcome, you'll end up dying. So that's why homeostasis tends to keep all these the same. For example, these are just 3 of many thousands of the internal environments. Okay, we just defined homeostasis, and now we're going to go into a little bit more depth. As you guys know, homeostasis consists of 2 stages. The first one being detect, and the second being respond, as you can see there. What I mean by detect is detecting the change in internal environment. So when the temperature of your blood changes, the pH, or whatever the case may be. And response is counteracting that change. For example, if your blood pressure or blood temperature gets up like too high to a critical level, homeostasis will take care of that and hopefully bring it back down. I have a couple examples over here. The first one being body temperature. Now, what happens when you get too hot is that something called thermoreceptors detect it, and they send it up to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus will respond to it. And the hypothalamus has multiple ways of responding to multiple scenarios. One of them being if your body temperature gets too hot, what happens is that you end up sweating. And as you end up sweating, heat is lost through sweat. As sweat vaporizes, it cools your blood in your dilated blood vessels. When you end up getting too cold, you shiver. And when you shiver, you end up making your muscles move, hence generating heat. This is also expressed through sport. When you guys play a lot of sport, you end up getting really hot. And this is one of the reasons, because of muscle movement. Another example is pH. Basically what detects this are receptors, and the response, you have 2 outcomes, too low and too high. When your pH is too low, for example 7.2 to 7.3, which is sort of average but just below, and if it gets to a critical level like 7.1 say, you end up getting something called acidosis. And to counteract this, you need to breathe a lot more, and once you breathe a lot more, this will just decrease the acidity by removing carbon dioxide in your body. Another scenario is when it's too high. If it gets too high to a critical level, it's known as alkalosis. If it gets too high, you end up breathing less. And if you end up breathing less, you conserve a lot of carbon dioxide in your body, which will lower the pH. Okay, the third example is water levels in your body. This is detected by receptors and has 2 responses. One being if the water in your body is too low, you will produce concentrated amounts of urine in small amounts of water. And for the second response, it's basically vice versa. If you have too much water in your body, you'll produce a dilute amount of urine in a lot of water. Now, the fourth and final example are the sugar levels in your body. This is also detected by receptors and has two responses. The first one being if you have too much sugar in your blood, a chemical will be released called insulin, which will lower your glucose levels. And the second response is glycogen. If you have too low sugar in your body, something called glycogen will be released, and this will just increase the amount of sugar in your body or blood. And yeah, that's it.